It's been what, at least 5 hours? Probably 6. The sun is very slowly beginning to set. We've run out of water. We're a bit sunburned, but we did finally make it to the car. You might have this idea that digital nomads can just travel the world and barely put in any work at all, but on the contrary, we tend to work long days, long hours in order to fund our lifestyle, especially here in the US. That is a cat attacking my microphone. Nice. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Michelle, and a few weeks ago I was in Utah with my partner Anne-Marie. I guess you can call us digital nomads since we both work location-independent jobs and we travel the world. We spent the last 6 months in Mexico doing all sorts of things, from visiting a coffee plantation to exploring ancient ruins, and you can watch all of that in some of the other videos on this channel. Anyway, before we flew to Florida to visit Anne-Marie's family, we spent a couple of days exploring the Moab area, and I wanted to share a few tips on how you could do that too. We started our adventure in Denver. The drive from Denver to Moab is about 5 to 6 hours, so if you leave early, you still have time to visit Red Rocks and see some of the viewpoints on the way. We chose to camp, so our accommodation was pretty cheap. Even though there are some free campsites in the area, they do fill up quickly, so for a hassle-free experience, I'd encourage you to book in advance. You can find the full list of campsites on discovermoab.com.
You do realize that when I put this in the video, people are going to have a shot of you when you're not eating.
The best way to access the national parks surrounding Moab is to purchase a Southeast Utah Park Pass for about $55. You can buy separate entry into each of the parks, but if you're visiting more than one, it is worth to buy the whole pass. This pass will give you entry into Canyonlands, Arches, and Natural Bridges National Monument. Here's a quick tip. You can fill in 2 names on the Park Pass, which by the way is valid for a whole year. So if you know anyone else that's going to Moab, you can pass it on to them. You can easily spend the whole month hiking all the trails in the area, but if you're only here for a long weekend, I'd recommend you take 1 day to explore each place so you get a feel of everything. This way you can see the desert beauty without too much of a rush. I don't know if you can see this, but all the way out there in the distance, there's cars driving on the road, and that is quite far away from where we're at. Canyonlands is divided into 3 main areas: Island in the Sky, the Maze, and Needles. After spending the night at Willow Springs Trail, a free campsite just north of Moab, we took the day to explore Island in the Sky. To get a good view of this northernmost part of Canyonlands, we drove all the way to Grand Viewpoint Overlook at the end of the paved road and worked our way back to Schafer Trail at the entrance of the park.
Okay, I didn't want to photobomb with an old man.
Nah, you're fine.
Schafer Trail is a good intro into off-road driving, and although a 4x4 is recommended, you can do it in a 2-wheel drive. If you're afraid of heights, you might want to skip this road, as the first part is a very narrow switchback road along steep cliff edges on your way down into the canyon.
I had a full-fledged panic attack. I'll admit it.
Once you reach the bottom, you can follow the road for another 2 or 3 hours all the way back to Moab. We chose to make a chili for dinner that would last us for the entire stay to make cooking a little easier. As you can imagine, we got pretty tired of it by the end.
Flag!
Flag 121.
Yes.
Yes! Still counting.
When I bathe myself with a sponge out of a dish, I feel like an 18th century prostitute.
At night, you can marvel at the stars as there is no light pollution to limit your view of the heavens. It's at moments like these that I really feel connected with the earth, and I'm reminded to take care of it as best as I can so that others can experience this too. We spent the next day in Arches National Park. As you drive through the park, you can already see some of the arches, and there's many viewpoints along the way. At the end, you can find Devil's Garden, which has a short half-a-mile hike to Landscape Arch and a few others. Yeah, it's quite nice. If you're looking for decorated arches, then this is not really the place to go to.
What are decorated arches? I don't understand this.
Well, when you have archways in cities, that's not what you get
Oh,
here.
yeah, because you're European.
I am European,
so,
yes.
Yeah.
This is just a bunch of holes in rocks.
No, it's not just holes in rocks. It's natural arches.
Yeah, still very awesome
So they're
to see.
not European, you know, oh, let's build monuments to the gods. These are the monuments built by the
Built by the gods.
Let's go get some food.
Yeah, we should get some food.
I don't eat enough in this video. We need to change that. These are juniper berries. You make gin out of them. They should be perfectly edible though. But don't look that up before you take my word for that, because if you die, it's not my responsibility.
You can take your time seeing all the arches, but since we only chose to take a day here, we chose to go to the Klondike Bluff trails in order to hike Tower Arch, which gave us a beautiful view of the Salt Valley. Scattered throughout Utah are petroglyphs, prehistoric rock paintings that date back thousands of years. When you're driving from place to place, be sure to keep an eye out for roadside stops. Many of them will give you access to a site with these fascinating rock carvings. On our last day, we visited the southernmost part of Canyonlands, Needles. It's about an hour south of Moab and tends to be a little bit less crowded. You can spend the day here hiking one of the trails that will lead you from canyon to canyon. We were told there was a ladder somewhere on our path, but this is not what we were expecting.
It's a tiny ladder, but it's on the side of a fucking canyon.
Oh yeah, if you come this way,
Anna, stand, don't get that close to the edge.
that's a nice drop.
You haven't figured it out yet, audience. I do not like heights.
Bring plenty of water as it can get really hot and there's no places to refill. On one of our hikes, we ran into Ranger Sam, who taught us about the biological soil of the desert here in Utah. Huge parts of the Needles area are covered with it. Most of it are cyanobacteria. Cyanobacteria are primitive phototropic prokaryotes whose long evolutionary history dates back to the Proterozoic era. In other words, they are super old and awesome. Without them, the desert would not survive. They trap the moisture in the ground and are essential to life here. Unfortunately, simply standing on them can be devastating.
Basically, anywhere where there is crust, it's at a different stage in its life.
Okay.
Yeah.
It looks like like the crusty moles my grandpa used to have growing on his body. But on the surface of the earth.
Yeah.
We treated ourselves to a non-chili dinner that evening before we had to head back home the next morning. If you're already thinking about visiting Utah, be sure to check out Trevor's experience in the desert earlier this year. I'll link it somewhere here. As you can see, you can fit quite a bit of adventuring in just a few days, and you don't even need to be a digital nomad to do it. Just go out there and explore. I hope you enjoyed this video. Smash that like button if you are up for a little road trip like this, and I'll see you in the next video. Is that your breakfast?
It's my breakfast snack. I'm really hungry.